Kirby, he's saving the day. Kirby, he's here to stay. Don't be fooled by his size, you won't believe your eyes, as it's time to look at Kirby Triple Deluxe. Triple Deluxe is easily one of my favorite Kirby games in the entire franchise. Taking the classic Kirby formula reinvigorated by the previous game, Kirby's Return to Dreamland on the Wii, and adding a new mechanic that makes Kirby seem more monstrous than ever before, and you get Kirby Triple Deluxe on the Nintendo 3DS. I pre-ordered and played Triple Deluxe back when it first came out in 2014, and that was a more transitionary period of my life. I had finished my second year of college and was about to shift focus into an actual degree path, after having an idea of what I wanted to do for 2 years, only to get a rude wake-up call that it wasn't a career path that I could pursue. By the time I finished the game, I had begun what would eventually lead to my bachelor's degree in history, and what put me on the path to later pursue my master's degree. The LP for this game, that just recently finished, I felt went rather well, with only a few minor hiccups on the equipment end, but I was glad to be able to experience the story that Triple Deluxe was able to tell once again. It's always a game that I enjoy playing whenever I have the chance, and it's definitely one I feel that people should experience if they've not played it on the 3DS and happen to own one. So, obviously there are many parts to a Kirby game, one of them being the story, so why don't we see what that's all about this time around. The story for Kirby Triple Deluxe starts out with our lovable pink puffball enjoying a nice and normal day in Dreamland. After a good night's rest, Kirby wakes up the next morning to discover that not only his house, but King DDD's castle have been flung high into the sky by a mysterious beanstalk known as the Dreamstalk. After entering King DDD's castle, King DDD and his loyal army of adorable Waddle Dees are visited by Taranza, a citizen of the Kingdom of Floralia. Per the Queen's orders, Taranza kidnaps King DDD and takes him up the Dreamstalk, with Kirby giving chase after having witnessed the kidnapping take place. That's pretty much it. That's all the depth the story has on the surface. And that's what I love about the story for Kirby Triple Deluxe, is the fact that it's not Kirby setting up the villain to succeed, it's actually the villains setting up their own downfall. In the case of this was all a misunderstanding. See, Taranza believes King DDD to be the hero the Floralian citizens were dreaming for, which is why they sent the Dreamstalk down to the surface to bring the hero of Dreamland to help save them, when in reality we all know that Kirby is the true hero of Planet Popstar. That's how the game ends up setting up the eventual fall of Queen Sectonia, because Kirby just wants to get his friend back, and that's really all the depth the story needs. Had the villains ended up kidnapping Kirby, we all know that King DDD would not go out of his way to rescue Kirby, unless there was some personal gain for himself. Thus, the villains have set themselves up for failure. And that's what I love about Kirby games in general. Simple stories on the outside, intense and depressing lore in the pause screen for bosses. But story is not really what a Kirby game is known for, and what a Kirby game is known for is the gameplay. So why don't we get on into that and talk about some of the changes that Kirby Triple Deluxe brings to the table. There's not many, but the ones that there are really do shake it up a little bit. Kirby is a series that, since its second game way back on the NES, knew what its core mechanics would be. Although that hasn't stopped the experimentation with most Kirby games since then. Since Kirby's adventure on the NES, Kirby's main trait has been that upon sucking up certain enemies, Kirby gains that enemy's ability and can use it freely until he relinquishes it with the push of a button, or it gets beaten out of him when he's hit too hard and gets destroyed. Taking most of the abilities that Kirby Return to Dreamland retooled and used, Kirby Triple Deluxe also adds in 4 new abilities of its own. From the adorably loud bell that gains power with each and every successful hit, to the absolutely broken Archer ability that allows you to remain invincible if you hold down and hold still, from the suplex-inspired Beetle ability that allows you to not only throw projectiles and objects, but also allows you to cut grass or cut rope, to the honestly highly forgettable Circus ability, with Circus's main gimmick being balloons and jumping through a hoop of fire and setting yourself on fire. Honestly, Circus, out of all the new abilities, is one of the more forgettable ones, but hey, 3 out of 4, not bad. And really, in Triple Deluxe, most of the copy abilities are versatile for dealing with enemies, stage hazards, and bosses in general, except Wheel. You use Wheel to flex on bosses more than use it to actually deal damage. With the launch and success of Kirby's Return to Dreamland on the Nintendo Wii, I was very curious to see what the Kirby franchise would have in store for it with its next mainline entry. Kirby games have a habit of turning its gameplay styles on its head between entries. Case in point, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror on the Game Boy Advance, going on to the next handheld system being Kirby Canvas Curse. These are very different gameplay styles, and I was afraid that Triple Deluxe would do the same. But I was very surprised to see that the gameplay styles that were reintroduced in Kirby's Return to Dreamland ended up staying, for the most part, inside of Kirby Triple Deluxe. Gone were the super copy abilities of Return to Dreamland, and instead came the Hypernova form. A form that allowed Kirby to suck up anything, no matter the size of it. Hypernova also did not have a time limit, unlike the super copy abilities, and thus one could take their time to explore levels with the Hypernova ability, provided it was in that level in the first place, because much like the super copy abilities from Return to Dreamland, they weren't present in each and every level. Normally placed near the end of the stage, Hypernova is a lot of fun to use, and the puzzles created for it are a lot of fun to end up going through, especially when you're going after things such as collectibles. Since Kirby's Return to Dreamland ended up raising the bar for Kirby level design as well as Kirby level aesthetics, it's only natural that Kirby Triple Deluxe's level design would have to reflect this sort of quality. And luckily, with a 3DS in hand, HAL Laboratory were able to do just that. With a rich and vibrant color palette that can pop out of the screen thanks to the 3DS's 3D functionality, Kirby Triple Deluxe's levels feel very unique, with ruins in the sky to a lovely carnival, to the Kingdom of Floralia itself, and dark caves in the sky. Overall, my favorite levels in Kirby Triple Deluxe have to be the Royal Road, in which you see different enemies on the citizens of Floralia itself, taking the place of Gordos and Waddle Dees, as well as the second level of the game, known as Lollipop Land, which reminds me of the Tot Land from the One Piece series, ruled by Big Mom. Luckily for Kirby Triple Deluxe, the levels feel very varied thanks in part to the Hypernova ability, and they aren't too long to go through and feel very rewarding to complete at the end. Each one has something unique to bring to the table, and you won't find yourself doing the same thing too often. Each level is split into 5 main acts, 1 boss, and a bonus stage unlocked by gathering the Sunstones in that area. Sunstones are basically, in Kirby Triple Deluxe, the Return to Dreamland gears for the Lore Star Cutter. Only a certain number of Sunstones are needed in order to unlock a boss stage before proceeding. Through the 5 stages of a level area, you're almost guaranteed to get the necessary number of Sunstones to proceed before moving on. And you don't have to go into the bonus stages if you don't want to. It also helps that the Sunstones are within hidden areas, often necessarily requiring power-ups that are easy to get, or have the power-up put on the outside of it, so once you enter the room and exit, if you mess up, you can go back and grab that power-up. Unfortunately, there are outliers to the norms in Kirby Triple Deluxe, and the big norm outlier would have to be Endless Explosions. Endless Explosions is a volcanic and lava-filled area that, if your power-up lands in lava or the water that happens to be in some of the few sparse areas, it will break and shatter, thus resulting in you being unable to use that power-up to get that Sunstone and having to leave the level in order to get that power-up back. I'm much reminded of the Orange Ocean Switch Palace, in which you had to get a hammer ability all the way to the end of a level in order to be able to hit a block that could only be broken with hammer. Unfortunately, with Endless Explosions, that is the one outlier and level that I am not a fan of. But all the other levels have an interesting aesthetic to them and are very pleasing to the eye and fun to play, as well as get the collectibles that were added into Triple Deluxe, keychains. Keychains are necessary for 100% completion in Kirby Triple Deluxe, and golden keychains hidden in the level stages are guaranteed to always be a specific character. Keychains in general are just different characters, enemies, set pieces from the Kirby franchise. Rare gold keychains will get you oftentimes unique in certain bosses in a lovely little sprite pattern. The problem with keychains, though, is this. You can end up not only getting all the rare keychains, you can get doubles of keychains, or even triples, quadruples, pentuples of one keychain you already have. Thus, near the end of Triple Deluxe, if you're going for true 100%, you have to place a lot of faith in RNGesus to get the 220 regular keychains in the game, and also have to collect the 36 rare keychains on top of that. Obtaining keychains are rather easy for the most part, as most can be obtained multiple times in levels, completing the bonus game by getting the goal game cannon to shoot you to the level 1 platform, or by doing the arena or true arena challenges. With the now defunct Street Pass functionality, Bandana Waddle Dee would also possibly give the player a keychain once they pass him before a mid-boss or a main boss. And finally, keychains can still be purchased for 3 play coins up to 5 times in one session before needing to beat an actual stage in the story before you can buy them again. So, while it can be easy to get the keychains, the annoying part comes from the fact that the keychains are randomized. So if you're going for true 100%, I do not envy you. After beating the game, there's also more to it than just the main story, as there's mini-games and the titular DDD's Tour. Starring the lovable Penguin King himself, DDD Tour is basically Meta Nightmare mode from Kirby's Nightmare in Dreamland, only with King DDD wanting to get his revenge for getting kidnapped and deciding to annex the Kingdom of Floralia for Dreamland. Being a gauntlet by going through each and every stage, boss stage, and bonus stage as King DDD, while facing powered up DX versions of bosses from the main story, as well as a new hidden boss for the ending. It's absolutely a fun mode that is mainly based around speedrunning. There are portals that you can end up going through in DDD's Tour that will allow you to skip certain portions of levels or levels entirely and then get you to the end faster. While DDD Tour will spend you the most time besides the main story, there are also 2 minigames. The minigames within Triple Deluxe also gained quite a bit of notoriety on the 3DS overall, not just from Triple Deluxe, but from the next mainline 3DS entry, Planet Robobot as well. Starting first with the game Kirby Fighters, it's basically a modified Super Smash Bros. Classic run-through, but with Kirby copy abilities as the fighters, all leading to a battle with Shadow Kirby at the end. It's an interesting distraction made available at the beginning of the game before the story even starts, and is required to be beaten in order to get true 100% in the game. But honestly, this is my least favorite minigame between the arenas, DDD's Tour, the next minigame, and the story. The reason for this is because, unfortunately, it can get pretty chaotic on harder difficulties really fast, and you'll find yourself restarting more times than not. It's still kind of annoying when the AI goes after you and only you directly. And there is a very hard mode which can make it a little bit more annoying, and the need to have to beat it with every copy ability to get the necessary ribbon is rather annoying as well. But what isn't annoying is our next minigame, DDD's Drum Dash, which is vastly different from Kirby Fighter. It's a rhythm game. In this game, the player plays as King DDD as he bounces on drums through a level to the beat of different songs. Once you complete the 3 main songs, you unlock a secret 4th song, which I mistakenly said inside of the LP that this was a remix of Crown, the Return to Dreamland final boss music. But in actuality, it is a remix of the Lore Starcutter's theme mixed in with Magolor's theme called Distant Traveler. Rhythm games are not always my jam, but I still enjoyed what I played with DDD's Drum Dash and had more fun with that minigame than I did with the Fighters minigame. Both minigames were popular enough to warrant their own standalone eShop titles as well on the 3DS under the names Kirby Fighters Deluxe and DDD's Drum Dash Deluxe. What makes these minigames memorable, in part, are the music tracks that are included with it, and the references or remixes from previous Kirby games that they employ. So why don't we talk about music now, and see how Triple Deluxe's music stacks up with the rest of the series. Hirokazu Ando and Jun Ishikawa return as the composers for Kirby Triple Deluxe, just as they've returned for every major Kirby game in the entire franchise history. These 2 composers have composed not only some of the most amazing tracks that the Kirby series has ever known, but also have composed some of the most iconic music in gaming. From themes such as 02, Marx's theme, to now, Fatal Blooms in the Moonlight for Kirby Triple Deluxe. Overall, the track variety within Triple Deluxe is something that I adore. And I actually prefer the tracks overall in Kirby Triple Deluxe over Return to Dreamland, Planet Robobot, and Kirby Star Allies. The ambient themes within caves are very nice. The soothing goal game music relaxes you after a tough and stressful level, looking at you endless explosions. And the final boss theme, Fatal Blooms in the Moonlight, makes the game all that much better. The inclusion of a sound test to listen to these tracks also is a great bonus, as I have many memories of listening repeatedly on my 3DS on car rides since I didn't have a smartphone to listen to music at the time well until 2016. Of course, it wouldn't matter as much for a sound test if, once again, Nintendo provided soundtracks for people to listen to the tracks and easily get them. For Kirby Triple Deluxe, this was one of the last major soundtracks released by Club Nintendo before it shut down, and as a result, the Triple Deluxe soundtrack will run you quite a bit of money. At the beginning of this review, I shared that this game holds a weird place in my heart, as it marked the transitionary period of my life, and much like back in 2014, now in 2020, I'd finished this game and my life is about to change again. I'm close to obtaining my master's degree. I'm trying to find my career, and I fear what is to come. But playing Triple Deluxe helps put me at ease. And this is definitely a game that I would love to see get ported over to the Nintendo Switch, since touch controls weren't nearly as important as the gyro controls that were implemented in the game, as well as the 3D functionality. If you have a Nintendo 3DS and don't have this game yet, you're doing yourself a great disservice. The game is a lot of fun, a stable 60 frames per second on the 3DS, which is a rarity for 60 frames per second games on the 3DS in general, and a blast to play all around. Therefore, I give this game my full recommendation for you to play if you have a 3DS and love a good platformer. It can be short if you want it to be, but it can be a decent length game, and it's thanks in part to all the collectibles that you can end up getting. So jump on in and suck up those enemies in Kirby Triple Deluxe. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all for my next review. So, go and pick up Triple Deluxe today if you are interested. See you all next time.